Welcome back, everyone. So millions of Americans are currently living with Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia. Research shows older Black adults are twice as likely to develop Alzheimer's than white adults, but they only make up about 10% of clinical trial participants. So joining me now to unpack this, Dr. Crystal Glover from the Rush Alzheimer's Disease Center in Chicago. Thank you for talking about this very, very important topic. I know I've had loved ones that have developed this disease, and it is horrible. So there are still so many questions about Alzheimer's disease and the causes. I thought it was interesting that less than 1% of the time it is caused by a specific genetic change that guarantees a person will develop this disease. So that's why it's so important. The more we know, the better chance we have in preventing it.
Indeed. Thank you for having me today, Melanie, especially on the first day of Black History Month. Very nice to be here.
Talk about, some of the misconceptions with Alzheimer's disease. I was listening to a podcast recently, and they talked about, as people age, you feel like I'm just going to develop dementia or I'm just going to get Alzheimer's. That does not have to be the case.
That is right. So the two biggest predictors or risk factors of Alzheimer's disease is simply getting older, so being alive and aging, as well as genetic predisposition. However, it doesn't have to be that way. Things that we do in our midlife, especially, are very key to our aging brains. So the big three things that I really talk about in my research that we can do, say in midlife, to kind of stave off the risk of Alzheimer's is the 3 acts: taking part in cognitive activities, so think mentally stimulating items, say reading, going to museums, any puzzles; social activities, so calling your girlfriends up or going out for brunch or speaking with them about any issues; and then as well as physical activity. So it doesn't have to be hard, sweat pumping exercise. It could be, say, another walk around Target or Walmart or simply your neighborhood. So really those 3 activities in midlife can really help you stave off in later age.
Yeah, you can't succumb to this disease. We can do something about it. Let's talk about these statistics, though, that we just mentioned. Do we have a clear understanding as to why Black adults are more likely to develop Alzheimer's disease than other ethnicities?
So one of the big issues of why we're here is to speak about participation in research, including the AHEAD study, and you can visit aheadstudy.org for more information, is that we don't have a lot of participation among members of Black and African American communities. That means all the drugs or therapeutics that are on the market now, any educational materials or ways that we can prevent or delay memory loss, are just not central to the lived experiences of many Blacks and African Americans. So when persons take part in research, we can understand, how does a drug work for them? We can center their brains and their lives up front. We can respect it and address it.
Let's talk about the AHEAD study specifically, the one that you are working on. How much time does a person have to give? What will their experience be like to really encourage this diversity in these clinical trials?
So one of the big things about AHEAD that makes it unique around Alzheimer's clinical trials is that it is the first to enroll people as young as 55 years of age. So typically we see the average enrollment starting at 65, but by the time you start experiencing symptoms of Alzheimer's, say in your 70s, and you're having that in your lived life, the brain changes already began 20 years before. So having folks enroll, taking part in around 3 to 4 years, that is key.
And how much time will a person have to devote to this trial?
Typically about 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
That's the average life of this trial.
Right, and I guess so in a week you would give an hour, or just how much time weekly would you have to commit?
Yes, I don't think it is weekly. It is not weekly. It is simply annual visits.
Okay. All right. So it's not a huge commitment, but it could have a huge impact on the research. Thank you so much for talking with us. Individuals aged 55 to 80, as Dr. Cooper mentioned, including Spanish-speaking adults, can join this study by participating at more than 70 sites all around the United States. So as you just heard, it's not a huge commitment, but certainly would love to get you enrolled. So it's the aheadstudy.org to see if you are eligible and how you can sign up.